Are we good? Are we good? Okay, looks like we're good. Should be connecting here in a moment. I am waiting. Okay. All right, I think. Oh. Uh-oh. What are we doing, doggo? You were laying in an unusual position. Let's get doggo. I got the doggo camera back up. Hopefully you all can see that. It is, I guess it's like 89 outside. So I'm going to risk it. I'm going to see how the doggo camera does. We'll just, see, zoom all the way in. Normally I'm expecting her to be in the dog bed, but today she's in a new spot. There we go. Hi, Bandita. How are you, sweetie? Hi. So good. All right. How is everyone doing? What is going on? It is Friday. I almost said April, but August. August 9th. What has been going on? Okay, I don't know why it says it says, what's going on? Something is wrong with YouTube. It doesn't have an excellent connection, but is it not actually displaying anything? Tiny Floof has appeared. Indeed. Okay. So let me get us connected to a little chat thingy here. Alrighty. Let's hope this doesn't cause any problems. Waiting. Okay, looks. Give it a second. Yeah, looks like we're good. Okay, great. All right, hello everyone. Once again, thank you so much for being here on this Friday evening. You know what? I've not said hello to people in the chat that have come in for a minute. Let's go ahead and do that. Hello, Violet. Hello, Fox of Fate. Hello, Fresh Tomato. That's a new one. Welcome. Hello, Twixie. Hello, Phoenix. Glad you could finally make it. Welcome. Oh, I don't. I'm gonna guess that's Turkish. Zana? I'm not even close, probably. I'm gonna go Zana. We're just gonna go with Zana because I can kind of say that part. Or because it could be like Hungarian. It could be like Hungarian or something too. Hello, Hellhound. Hello, Jetsy. Hello, Dark Kitty. Hello, Let's Go for a Ride. Hello, Jan. Hello, Dorian. Hello, Kat. Hello, Nicole. It kind of like, it's funny to me whenever I see like a really long name and then just like Kat. Like, just notice what it is. Hello, Spencer. Hello, Sabrina. Hello, Lexi. Hello, Nicole. Hello, DJ Basehawk. Hello, Texas Meats or TX Meats. Welcome. Okay. We love the early crew. 11 people come in here early for our streams. So I will just say, ooh, there's like a new thing. Now the line is very, very bright green. I don't know why that is a thing. My guide dog says hello to Bandit. Hello, Manita. She wagged her tail a little bit. Right now she has her little snoot between her paws, and she just briefly wagged her tail when I said Bandita, because she could tell. Right now she's like in snooze mode. She was just outside for a while, so now she's in snooze mode. What is the topic for today? Great question, Steve. So we have a couple of things that we could talk about. There's always a lot on my brain. People who participate in the Thursday chats know what's up, because I will just take something that is the most vaguely related thing and talk about it for like 20 minutes, and then go back to the original thing and then talk about something else again for another 20 minutes. So a couple of things that are on my mind for today. The title of this one, I think, was Munches, and like Munches, something about dating and like having hard conversations. And I don't know. I feel like, just for full disclosure, I feel like pretty low energy today. I have been working on probably what is emotionally the most difficult video I've ever had to work on, which is kind of weird because like I've talked about like Army Hammer, Marilyn Manson, like BDSM cults. I've talked about people that have perpetuated significant long-term abuse against like multiple other people, and that's still for some reason is not as difficult as the video I'm working on today. Like I keep having to like take breaks and be like, all right, we're gonna play some Sudoku, we're gonna look at, you know, a game on my phone or whatever for a little bit, we're gonna come back to this, or like do house chores and then come back to it. So I'm a little bit like because of that, just because the subject matter is really tough. But I got a lot of people that a couple months ago were requesting I talk about a series of videos that is still kind of ongoing by a creator on TikTok who has a username I don't love. It's Darth Idiots, which I'm like, can we not use the term idiots, please? Like, I get why it's like a Darth Sidious, right? Like, I get the pun, but also like, like maybe we don't need to have that in a username. You know what I mean? So I don't love that. But she made a series of videos back in, I think the first one was in May, where she talked about how her mother was involved in a 24/7 DS relationship and like how that affected her growing up, and like the things that she either knew about or like were kind of involved in, and the whole subject matter and like the circumstances surrounding it are just like so difficult for me to sit with for whatever reason. Because I mean, I guess it feels like, you know, when you're reading about something in the news, right, like you're sort of abstractly reading about a case, like something from Marilyn Manson or something from Armie Hammer, where there's like allegations, but it's being covered by the news. There's a layer of abstraction that's already happened that I think makes it easier to process. Whereas like if I had learned about that stuff via like a series of TikToks that were like sort of to my mind, and I'm not like, listen, okay, if you're somebody who is like a victim of CSA or like emotional incest or whatever, I am not going to like critique the way that you choose to talk about that experience on the internet, because that's absolutely not my place. But it's also true that like hearing the way that certain things are expressed makes it sound like there's a level of like, see, look, this proves that kinky people are weird and bad and awful. And it just, that's really, really hard for me to sit with sometimes. So it kind of gets me a little down, doesn't really make me that happy. So, but I'm talking about it, and hopefully it'll be a productive conversation, because I feel like the way that it's gone so far, because I don't really know how many kink talk people are really still on TikTok at this point. And there's like a whole other phenomenon going on that I'm probably going to make a video about too, of there's a cottage industry on YouTube of people that react to like kink talk videos, like specifically to make fun of them, like without having an open mind. Like they literally just pick things because like, oh, these like people are weird and they're easy to make fun of, and it's like an easy like 2 million view video to be like, what the fuck are all these weirdo freaks getting up to? And once again, because I'm one of the only people on YouTube talking about kink, I'm kind of like the only person that on a regular basis covers ongoing social media events related to kink. I feel a really strong obligation to talk about it, because it's not like, you know, like regular YouTube drama, like, you know how like, which is weird to call it drama, but like Mr. Beast, right? Like if you haven't heard, Mr. Beast having expose videos made about him currently, having lots of stories shared by various people online who are saying that, you know, he's, you know, faked things, he's manipulated things, it's covered up things, very bad. And like every single drama and commentary YouTuber under the sun, every news channel, everyone's covering that because it's so big. But like, who else on YouTube is going to talk about like, you know, a viral TikTok with like what, probably like 15 million views, you know, that went all across the whole platform, that people inside the lifestyle, outside of it, everybody in between saw and were talking about? Like, who else is going to cover that? Like, it's probably just going to be me, you know? So yeah. So for, I guess, what the topic is today is sort of whatever y'all want, because that's how it normally goes. But I thought we could maybe talk a little bit, if you all, because I'm in the process of writing it, if any of you all are on TikTok, or if you saw that video, or if you've seen videos around it that were talking about like, you know, people who wear eternity collars, like look exactly how you expect and whatever, which, as I will talk about in the video, I think is like an inherently queerphobic sentiment, because the people that they are saying that about are like people who look visibly queer. So once again, the queer baiting, not queer baiting, the queer bashing is coming from inside the fucking house. For me, it's very, very funny to see like, you know, very normie presenting vanilla bisexual girls bashing on a bunch of like, obviously like, queer and trans people, because they look like the kind of people that would wear a collar. it's just like, come on, we don't have to be doing this. Tumblr, TikTok, come on, don't, just be nice. Why do we gotta like insult people based on how they choose to dress? Like, what is this, 1995? Did we really miss the like high school lunchroom of like, oh my god, she totally like is wearing the same skirt that Megan wore last week, and she totally is like stealing her boyfriend, blah blah blah. Like, are we really gonna go back to that again? Do we really need to like make fun of people because like, oh my god, look at that, I can't believe she's wearing those kinds of pants, I didn't know that this can like, hello? Like, I barely missed that when I was growing up, because I went to a very large high school, and it was so big it was like impossible to form cliques because there were like 4 separate lunch times to get everyone through lunch during my school was so big, our first lunch shift had to be at like 10:45 a.m. Like, that is not an hour that 17-year-olds should be eating lunch at. But that's what happens. That's a whole other story. That's a whole other thing. So then we can talk about that. Also talk about other things that were kind of surrounding that topic, talking about, Munches and being able to sit through and have hard conversations, because that's a tool I've really been working on in my personal life and just in general. Like, I think the main skill I've been working on is like learning, like literally how to not take things personally. Because I think it's really easy online when you see stories about stuff like this, or you see people talking about like the kink community, or like any community you're part of. It could be about queer stuff, trans stuff. It could be about, whatever. It could be about a hobby group you're part of. It could be about like people who are in anime, whatever. You'll always get people that will say like negative things about the whole group. And that's not necessarily about you. So if somebody makes like a general comment about like, why do queer people always have to dye their hair such fugly colors? Like, that's not actually a comment about you. And I think if you're seeing stuff like that over and over and over again on social media, like I do, like, it's hard for that to not get into your head, because when you're inundated with messages, because you see that, and for whatever reason, even if you don't click on it, you don't like it, you don't leave a negative comment, you don't downvote it, you don't engage with it in any way, I think somehow the algorithm knows, just like when you stop scrolling for a second to read something, and even if you're just doing that, it knows, and then you see more of it, and it's like suddenly you start seeing like more and more negativity, because especially on Twitter, they've picked up that that's like what you want. Okay, I've got like a little bit of like an eyelash going into my eye right here. That's really not fun. Also, happier news. I found probably the best pencil eyeliner I've ever bought. It's from Dior. If you all want to know what it is, I will go grab it and I will get the exact name of it, because it's legit the best black soft pencil eyeliner I've ever used in my entire life. And it's so good. I was even able to do a wing with a pencil, which I've never been able to do before, and haven't even attempted since I was probably like a sophomore in high school. So back when I only wore brown eyeliner because I couldn't wear black. How times have changed. How times have changed indeed. But we can also talk about whatever you want to talk about. This is a Q&A, so if you want to talk about, a follow-up to a previous answer, if you want to like deep dive into something, if you want to talk about, other queer stuff, asexuality, dating stuff, relationships, open relationships, polyamory, getting out into the kink community, just a random pop culture thing you want my opinion on. One thing that I don't talk about is we don't talk about politics here. Okay, this is a politics-free zone. There are approximately 20,000 other places online where you can go and talk about politics if that's what you really want to do with your free time. And I don't give medical advice. So if you want to know about like, is it okay that I have a bruise like the size of a dinner plate? If it's like, is it, should I be worried about the fact, that would cut my skin? Maybe that's, you should talk to a doctor. It's going to be my answer. Virtual care visits are an amazing thing, and we should take advantage of them. I would love to see the eyeliner. I will grab it. But I'm gonna get a question first. I normally go in order. So if you want to get your question answered, I highly recommend coming in and asking it sooner rather than later, because as we go on, I will probably not be able to get to every single thing that we can talk about here. Oh, my dog is like, she moved again. She's so tiny. When I get the eyeliner, I'll move the dog camera. Although when I get up and move, she'll probably also move. So we'll see how that lasts. But yeah, we have a nice little conversation here about whatever y'all have on your mind. 10:20 sounds like a late breakfast, not even a brunch. I know, it's too early. It's almost too early for it to even be a brunch. That's how early it is. Like, that was wild. That was I had that, I think, for like once or twice, maybe sophomore year. Terrible lunch time. Terrible. Then again, I also like never ate breakfast because I had to be up at like 5:30 in the morning. So it wasn't the worst thing ever for me. But, you know, if you were like a kid that did swim or something in the morning, it was not a great time. If you had to do sports in the afternoon afterwards, good luck if you had to suddenly make it from like 10:30 to like 4:35 p.m. without another meal in you as a kid, you know. Anyways. What is a munch? Great question. So a munch is an informal gathering of people in the BDSM community in a vanilla setting, like a coffee shop or a restaurant, pizza place. Sometimes I've seen it at like, you know, board game places, tea houses. There's different versions of it, but generally it's at some kind of vanilla venue, usually something with food and or some kind of activity. And you go just to like socialize and hang out casually around other kinky people. There's no gear, no play. People will talk about kink stuff. So especially with newer people, like people will, and you know, have you come in and they'll ask about like, oh, like, you know, how long have you been in the community before? What are you interested in? Like people will talk about scenes they've done or how the dungeon was on Friday or plans for the future, or like a camping trip they're going to go on. People also will talk about vanilla life stuff too. It sort of depends on the makeup of the munch. Every munch is going to be different. Some are very general, some are for specific groups. So there'll be like a munch for just like queer people, or a munch just for asexuals, or a munch just for doms, or just for submissives, or just for people under 35, or just for people, you know, 40 plus. Like you'll see all different versions of it, but there'll usually be some kind of differentiation. I've also seen ones that are based around like shared hobbies. So I've seen ones like there's like a rock climbing munch, there's a cigar and whiskey munch, there's board game munches, there's probably LARPing munches, I don't know, like pottery probably, like all different hobby groups will have munches attached to them as well. So you get a bunch of different opportunities to just socialize with people in the kink scene, and depending on how familiar people are with each other, you will see people that will come in and you know, they'll talk about maybe more life stuff if they know the people there. Like if it's a munch that's been going for like 5+ years and it's a lot of the same people over and over again, like you will get people that, you know, get caught up on like everyday life stuff to, you know, job, work, you know, how the wedding planning is going, you know, just stuff that happens. You know, they had strawberries on sale at, I don't know, Menards I don't think has strawberries. I think Menards is a hardware place. I was going to try to insert a regional reference in there, but I don't think that works. I can say Publix. I know that's the strawberries were on sale at Publix. I loved Publix as a kid, by the way. I think it was just literally, wasn't the logo like a dinosaur? I think that was literally it. They sold me on that. That was all I had. Do you have any knowledge of the East Coast kink scene? I'm searching around a FetLife right now and it's kind of daunting. I have experience with kink, not just IRL communities. Not even sure about how to specifically find munches, or TNG is the way to go for me. There is a munch directory online. I've talked about it a couple times before. It's called the Munch and Adult. It has like some abbreviation associated with it. It's like mall something. Yes. Okay. It's findamunch.com. It's the Munch and Adult Local Links directory. It can be out of date depending on where you live, but it can be a good place to start if you're not finding munches in your area, just to see what options there are. I would say your best bet is probably going to still be FetLife, though. You can go on FetLife and you can search for like different events on FetLife, and at least in my experience, there's a ton of munches where I live, so you'll see a lot of them. Just like go to FetLife, go to the event section, type in your nearest big city, and then just like go through all the events. Usually most munches are going to be either weekly, bi-weekly, or once a month. And you can just read them and see, are they more general? Are they for a specific group? The East Coast does have a ton of events. I know that there is a big community in Miami. There's a big one in New York. There's a big one in the DC area. There's a big one in Baltimore. I don't really know so much about like the far Northeast. Like I don't know what they got going on in like Rhode Island. I don't know what they got going on in like rural like Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, I don't know about that. But if you're more coastal and if you're in the big cities, like there absolutely are big things in the larger metro areas down there. Even, you know, if you're getting into sort of more, I know there's stuff in Virginia, I know there's stuff in the Carolinas. So you have options for sure on the East Coast. I can't speak to the quality of any of the events on the East Coast. Obviously, I don't live there, and things can change so much, so rapidly with who's running an event, you know, what types of events there are, especially with, you know, COVID and everything else that's happened in the last like 4 or 5 years. You know, people just come and go. New events are coming up all the time. So your best bet is really going to be just to like look and see who is RSVP'd, see how many people there are. You know, is it mostly like blank profiles? Is it people that, you know, seem like they're all brand new to the community? Is it mostly like 40-year-old guys? Or is it like a good mix of people that seem to be more involved in the community? You know, what do they write about? How do they talk about kink? Do they have any sort of protocol in place for, you know, dealing with consent things? Do they vet people? Do they check IDs? Those are all things I would look for to get a sense of what's out there. Wegmans is better than Publix. I don't think could ever afford to shop at Wegmans. I lived in a place briefly that had a Wegmans once, but it was also like 45 minutes away. So it was not a regular grocery shopping trip for this family. Although there was there was a deaf meetup, I think, at one of the Wegmans. I feel like I remember seeing that. I think I did that because I did ASL as one of my foreign languages when I was in high school. I think I went to that. Or maybe I was too socially anxious and I just like decided to take I was like, I won't get the bonus credit for doing that. But Wegmans was nice. Too expensive though, too far away. I don't know why I whispered that. Like, oh no, if Wegmans finds out I think they're too expensive, they're gonna come here and smite me. Huge community in North Carolina. True. I met so many people. That was what was so interesting about going to, one of the things about going to Southeast Leatherfest. So many people from the Carolinas. Like I met more people from the Carolinas than I met the people who were like local to Atlanta. Like it was, and Florida too. Lots of people from Florida, lots of people from the Panhandle. That was really interesting because I was not expecting that at all. But I guess there's not like, you know, they don't, as far as I know, outside of like maybe like the MAST conference, there's not really a big, and Test Fest if you're getting up into like New York, there's not really another really big like BDSM conference in that region once you're getting that far south. So maybe it makes sense. Thank you so much for the info, making me feel better about trying to get out there. Going to take your advice in a video I once watched and probably just do a solo scout trip. I think that's a good idea. Definitely scout it out if you can. If you're nervous, just go early. You don't have to stay for very long. If the vibes are off, don't stay there. Because not every munch is ran by good people. You don't have to have a license to run a munch. Anyone who feels like it can just like start a munch and put it on FetLife. There's no sort of community regulation about that. Like we don't really, it's probably a good thing to be honest, because like who would be in charge of that? But you know, anyone can have a munch. Doesn't mean they're good people, but just, you know, use your gut. If something doesn't feel right, if it doesn't feel like the right environment for you, like try another one. It's okay. Like it's gonna take a while sometimes to find where your people are at, and it's worth it to go through that process. Ooh, Alex says, this is a long one. Can I see the whole thing, YouTube? I've been dealing with disassociation for many years now and really enjoy BDSM as a way to feel in my body, especially with bondage, impact, and ... Oh, wait, I can now, if I click on it, I can reply. I can reply to super chats now. Look at these wonderful new features. Wow, technology is happening. And I'm a bad kinkster because I don't remember what fornophilia is. Is it the furniture one? It is the furniture one. It is. Just the furniture one. I'm very familiar with the many grounding tools you mentioned. The only thing that really helps me is mindfulness meditation, being outdoors, and fitness. DP/GR is a bad time though. I mean, hey, know your own limits. Absolutely. I'm glad that video helped you. So I recently made a video a couple days ago that went live where I talked about how to use kink as a way to reconnect with your body. And that's something that I've been on a journey with because luckily I have a partner who's very supportive in that. And like, I haven't met very many people in my life that are like very like tactilely aware. And in a combination with the self-work I've been doing and being with this person who is like more like tactile themselves, like they can tell stuff that even I will miss. And I'm like, oh, right, I should be like, you're right, I totally missed that. Or I'm like, it's so easy when you get in the habit out of like constantly like basically like separating your mind from your body all the time to like actively stay in it. And it's a journey to learn how to do that, but it can be so rewarding. And I think so many of us don't even realize like how unsafe we feel in our bodies until we're put in a position where we suddenly feel really unsafe. And learning to come back into ourselves and learning how to feel safe again is such a long process, but also very, very worth it too for like having better experiences. And I think this is, you know, some people will be kind of like shitty towards people for like not knowing like what their boundaries are, what they like or what they don't like. And I think we can't really blame people for that over much. Like there is a difference between saying like, I have no limits, do whatever you want to me, you know, my body is yours, blah, blah, blah. And just like immediately going into that because that's like an easier answer than self-reflection. But like legitimately, like it can be, if you're sort of told your whole life that like you exist for like the pleasure of other people, and the best thing that you can do, the best thing you can be is to be of service of others, and your pain doesn't matter, and you know, just tough it up and like don't cry, and you know, it's whatever, like all that stuff. Like of course like people are not going to know where their limits really are because like culturally in the way that they're being brought up, they're not actually encouraged to stay in touch with their bodies, because the more you do that, the harder it is to like be fully comfortable in an environment where you're constantly just like sitting all the time and like being asked to disconnect as often as this happens, or to not like listen to your bodily experiences. Like again, kind of going back to being in school, right? Of like, I had schools and I had teachers where they were like really strict about like bathroom passes, and like that became a problem for a lot of kids because like some kids just like have to go more than others, or you know, like just all this stuff we like teach people repeatedly throughout life to like ignore signals, ignore how our body is feeling, because like you have to endure, and sometimes just enduring is not actually like the best thing in life. Anyways, that's my own ramble there. Oh yeah, strong language is fine. Swearing is fine. Be aware if you swear too much, like if you're dropping F-bombs, you know, dropping slurs, that's going to get tagged by YouTube. So refrain from that, you know, censor swear words if you can, but like saying words like sex or like kink or whatever is like totally fine. That should not get flagged. YouTube is not TikTok, thankfully, so that's okay. All right, let me grab my eyeliner so I can like show that to you all, and I can change the Bandita camera. Girly whirly. I know I'm moving. Hi. Here's my... Okay. Did I get a bug bite? What's happening? I don't know. Maybe I did. Alright, where... Should I put the camera? Hi, my angel. Hi, baby. Oh, you moved. Hi. Well, maybe I shouldn't move it. Maybe I don't know. What should I do, doggy? What should I do? Should I move it over there? You want to come over here? Hi. Come over here. Hi, baby. Oh, you're so good. Yes. All right, we'll see. Where are you gonna end up, doggo? Okay, maybe she's gonna stay over there. We'll see. Okay, let's get the pet camera back on. Get that adjusted. Floof. The towering floof of Bandita. Okay, I bit my lip yesterday, like right here, and I keep almost accidentally biting it again. So I'm going to try not to do that because I need to film videos tomorrow. Okay, so this is it. I got this on sale at Ulta, just like on a whim. Oh, she's going into bed. Perfect. This is the... Oh, can I get it to like... I got to do the makeup YouTuber thing. It's to the light. I have a light right there. There. Okay, Dior. It is the Dior Show Stylo in matte black. It is a waterproof creamy eyeliner pen. I've taken this off with like just regular makeup remover and it's been fine. This is so pigmented. It's so creamy. There's a little like, it comes with a little blender thingy that I actually find useful. It's really, really good quality. I love it. It's probably wouldn't buy it full price because it is a little spendy, but if you can get it on sale at Ulta or Sephora, it's totally worth it. This is fantastic and I love it, and I don't know why no one talks about this. Not that I really keep up with makeup YouTube these days, but I just never hear me talk about it. And even on like my eyelids, like it doesn't, I think I put it a little too high up on this eye because I have hooded eyes, so sometimes it'll transfer, and like it's mostly been fine. So we will see. She is in the bed. Look, it's so soft and so cute. She got groomed yesterday and she's like extra cute. She is, how old is Bandita now? She's 12. She's 12. Her birthday is March 1st. And it's March 1st of 2012 is her actual birthday. And her adoption day is August 1st. So that just happened. She just had her adoptiversary last Thursday. Or I guess Thursday before last. Something like that. I went to a swingers party last weekend with my dom. The dungeon asked her to volunteer as a DM. Wow, just getting drafted. Because they do allow light BDSM, but it's more of a focus on being a sex party. Wait, so did they ask during the party to volunteer at that party? Like in the moment? Or was it like they approached afterwards to be like, hey, next time you can come and like volunteer? I mean, I feel like if you have a party and you don't have appropriate DMs to start with, you should probably not recruit random people that are supposed to be there to enjoy the event. You should probably just not allow that kind of play. But swingers parties have never, in my opinion, never been held to the highest possible standards. Before her DM shift, I'm not going to read that part, but congratulations. Apparently that draws a big crowd at swingers parties. Oh yeah, because they at least my experience, swinger parties are very, heteronormative, with the exception of, two cis women doing things together. So that's not surprising to me at all. They'd be like, ooh, pegging, a weird, wacky new experience. Everyone has to start somewhere, and I appreciate you being out there and representing for the people of the world that maybe are too nervous to try it out on their own. Oh, they asked beforehand? Okay. Oh, we had another super chat. Oh, thank you. I don't see it. Where'd it go? Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, let's get back to some questions in order. And thank you all so much for being here, spending a little bit of your Friday evening with me. It really means a lot. I know there's so many fun things you could be doing on a Friday, but I just like that you guys spend a little bit of it with me. And it makes me tear up a little bit. I don't know why. Okay, listen. I've been having this on and off all week, okay? We're going to have a story about me coming up with my third year of having the Nexplanon implant. Like, I'm going into my third year. And I started taking a mini pill for a month to, try and regulate my hormone cycles. Because, it's a long story. But the Nexplanon, you can have issues with, basically having a period all the time, and I started to have that issue. And ever since I started taking those pills, every once in a while I just have a moment where I get really overwhelmed with emotion and I can't do anything about it, and it just happens. It just happens, and I have to deal with it temporarily. I started last week I started crying at 2:00 in the morning on a Wednesday because I was just I thought about how much I loved my dog and I just started crying. That's the experience. Oh, I'm looking forward to the fact that we found one more of the plant that we hunted to extinction in the Roman times because it was such a good contraceptive. Imagine if we could just have that again. We could find a way to cultivate it. How that would change existence. Okay, anyways, let's go back to early in the stream, and then I'll get into some other questions. Long Island has a lot of kinky munches and a kink scene. Oh, dog was on the move. See where she ends up settling. As much of a garbage fire as FetLife can be, it's really good at finding munches by area. That is true. I think, if nothing else, FetLife is still really good for finding most events. You can also look on, again, depending where you live, this is a more regional thing. Not everywhere is taking this up, but you can look on the Bloom Community app, and you can also look on Blackthorn and Forbidden Tickets. Not as many munches on there, but you will see other events on there too, especially on Bloom. Ooh, speaking of not taking things personally, I chose not to go to a munch because the guy I reached out to was unintentionally ableist. Well, I'm glad that you chose not to go there. Oh my gosh, my dog is as close to the camera as she could possibly. You guys can see she has a little bow in her hair. It's so cute. I love her so much. Look at that. Adorable. Oh, that reminded me. I gotta email somebody about something. I was getting art made, and then I never got a copy of it, even though I paid for it. I gotta go. Gotta figure that out. Anyways, good for you for sticking up for yourself. And I, in a weird way, I'm glad the person that you reached out to, like, sort of showed you who they were before you went to, like, actually go to the munch. Oh, in Connecticut. Oh, I don't really know anything about the scene in Connecticut. I know you should be very, careful because that is where Alpha Dom lives. I believe he lives in Connecticut or somewhere very close to there, but he's not in the community. But just be prepared. Apparently, that's what Connecticut's got on offer. Not great. Ooh, great question, Natasha. Do you have any tips for getting used to physical intimacy? I want to date, but the touch factor makes me avoid it sometimes. That is perfectly valid. I know a lot of people, especially more like touch averse or like sex averse, like aromantic people or asexual people, they really struggle with that because like I'm an ace person and like I like hugs, I like physical affection. So like that part's fine with me. Like there's a limit, to where that goes where I'm like, maybe not so much anymore. But for general, like sort of socially acceptable, like date touching, I'm usually fine with. But for me, I think what really helped me get more comfortable with like physical intimacy is like knowing that I was safe with the person I was around and I didn't feel like I was like compelled to do it because I had to do it. It was because it was a choice that I wanted to make because it was reflecting an authentic emotional experience I was having, and that's the way that I wanted it to be expressed. I find that oftentimes there's a lot of like social expectations around like, oh, well, you should do this. You should behave this way, right? Like, making kids like hug their family members. And that goes into even dating where it's like, well, but like you should hold hands. And by the third date, you should be hooking up. And by the second date, you should be like tongue kissing in the car in the parking lot. There's all these like weird unspoken rules that people will have about, what should be happening. But that's not real. Like that's not some sort of truth of the universe. That's just what we have randomly decided currently in our present way of organizing that's what people should be doing for whatever reason that we like. But it doesn't actually mean that it's real or that you have to act that way or do those things. I imagine it would be sort of a double-edged sword because if you're upfront about it on a dating app, on the one hand, that could attract people that interpret that as being a like, oh, this person's going to be like easier to manipulate because they don't have like any experience. But it might be better to err on the side of like, I'm looking to like, I might phrase it more like, I'm looking to connect emotionally, before things get physical. Or like something like that, like along that flavor route where you're not saying like, I have no experience with physical intimacy, I don't know what to do, and it makes me uncomfortable. Like you're being very honest about what you want, which is like, I am looking to have like an emotional relationship first and then like the physical part afterwards. And I think that'll weed out a lot of people without necessarily saying something that might put a little bit of a target on your back for like people that are like, look, this is the kind of person that could be like easier to manipulate. And then just like be very clear about like where those boundaries are at. I have found that since and I've sort of always been this way, but I've refined it over the years. I'm very upfront on my dating apps. I am very clear in my profile about like, this is who I am. This is my life. These are the things I'm a part of, like polyamory, kink, whatever. I'm mostly looking for like emotional and romantic interactions. Like the physical part is not as important to me compared to things like, and this isn't really high phrase and I'm just brushing over it very briefly. I emphasize that I'm not looking for a primarily like physical relationship. And I found that to be like, I've had people tell me it's really refreshing because they're not like the more common thing people will see is like beating around the bush, being like, I don't know why I'm on this app. I don't even know why I'm here. I'm just going with the flow. I don't really have anything in particular I'm looking for. I'm figuring out what I want still. And so when you're really direct about what you're looking for and what you're not looking for, I find a lot of people actually like enjoy that. And I haven't had as many problems since then with people like escalating things in a physical direction. I've still had to like cut contact with people or not go to a date because I connected with people that I very quickly got, like, even if they were on the app fine, when we started to transition into like maybe planning a date or we were talking about, you know, we exchanged phone numbers, like then suddenly got way more physical and I was like, nope, not my thing. But I think if you can find someone that you know would be okay with and totally trust your physical boundaries, I think that'll give you a safe container to like start exploring like what kinds of physical touch you are okay with. There is, so let me grab it actually. There is a book that I read recently. It is called Hot and Unbothered. You can see I have bookmarked this quite a lot. There is an exercise in this. There's a lot of exercises in it. Let me see if I can find it. There is a specific name for it in sex therapy. I'm trying to see just very quickly if I can find it in this book. I'm trying to remember. I know I had the orange. My orange tabs are exercise ideas, and then the pink ones are just general things that I thought were interesting in the book. Around differentiation. There's like journal things. Okay. It was earlier in the book than I thought it was. It's gonna bother me if I can't find this. Give me a second. There is a whole there's a whole like section here that is about like establishing what your like physical boundaries are and like how to talk about things. If I got this used for like 10 or 12 bucks, so I would, and there's even stuff about like, you know, the vibe that you want to have for sex. You know, there's a relatively brief, you know, yes, no, maybe checklist, but it goes over a lot of the big things in there. I'm trying to, this is about like, like understanding your narratives around sex and like understanding your core beliefs about things like touch. I don't remember what it's called, but there's like, anyways, I'll just show it. It's Hot and Unbothered. This is by Yana Talon Hicks. She is an LMFT. She's a sex therapist and a marriage and family therapist. It's a very good book. It's not that big. There's tons of exercises in it. That's like a really good way to get a better sense of like physical boundaries, like how to talk about things like that with a partner. But I'm trying to find, there's somatic experiencing, but I don't think that's like, oh, sensate focus. That's what it is. I don't think she calls it that in that book, but there is a technique called sensate focus. Obviously, I'd recommend if you can do this with a therapist, I would recommend it, but sex therapists are few and far between and they're expensive, so I get it if you can't do with them, but it's called sensate focus, and it's a protocol that you can follow with a physical partner where the intention of it is to like authentically learn how to experience what you like about touch and the like kinds of touch, like the quality of it, the location of it, everything. And it's just about figuring out what you like and what you don't like and where your boundaries are, and the same for your partner, and being able to communicate about that and not have everything leap automatically into sex, and then gradually over time like finding what feels right to you to eventually get to that level if you do want to go there. And I find that's like really helpful if you're trying to, like, obviously you can't do that with every relationship. Like doing sensate focus really requires having a partner that is, you know, like not going to be pushy, not going to try to coerce you, is somebody you trust. Like you can't do it with just anybody, but if you can get to a point in a physical relationship where you get there, that can really help. But yeah, that's sort of a really big long answer to talking about that. But I know it's a common issue. It's like a common thing that a lot of people struggle with. So yeah, right. Thank you so much for the advice and answering thoroughly. You're very welcome. I'm glad I could help. I really recommend reading Hot and Unbothered. Yeah. I think that's about what I'd have to say on that. I could probably talk about it more if I had more time for a prepared answer, but that's where I will go ahead and leave it. All right. Next question. Again, thank you, Natasha. Lots of conventions from Pennsylvania through Georgia. Conventions specifically. Oh yeah, there's like little ones, and there's like the fetish flea fair and some stuff, but maybe I'm not as in the know about that. Like I'm thinking of like big conferences, like 1,000 people plus conferences, not like smaller local ones. If they don't check IDs, as a big red flag. I went to a social event at a dungeon once that did not check IDs, and it really freaked me out. Same. I have a great kink community, but my damn job work hours keep me from going to many events. Yeah, that's the pre-pandemic. I remember there being more of an effort to make things that would happen in like the middle of the week, something on like, 2 p.m. on a Wednesday for people who did work like graveyard shift, or for people who, maybe they were like a stay-at-home parent and they could like take their parent to like, they could take their kid to like a daycare, once or twice a week, and then have that time to like go do kink stuff away from home. And yeah, it's like not as much of a thing these days. Like I haven't really seen that come back. But I would love it if that came back. It was more of a thing. Yeah, and not checking IDs is like so weird. There's like one party I went to, like only one I've ever been to, where they did not check IDs, and that was like instantly the biggest red flag. And I was like, how do you not like do that? How do you not? Like, you can't just be like, well, I can trust that they seem like they're, the appropriate age. And that's how you end up with minors in your vet. Just don't. Come on, people. The thing that gets me is that she has more leverage over me because she's framing me supposedly violating her boundaries by just bringing up things that remind her of sex. Like, I think that's unfair too, but she feels like I'm crossing lines for mentioning even the most mundane everyday relationship related stuff. I mean, that to me, I don't know this person, Lexi, but even just what you're describing there, that reminds me of someone that sounds like they have like internal work to do. Like, I think there's a level of being considerate, don't talk about your sex life in front of your single friends. Don't talk about anal in front of your parents. Like there are boundaries that we should all have with people in our lives about how far we go into stuff. But if you're just mentioning mundane things that are like normal for a relationship, like we went to the store together and I told my partner to get 3 apples, but they got 4, and it was funny because like they miscounted. I don't know, I'm just trying to make up the most boring example I possibly could. And that ends up making them upset. Like this is sort of an example to me of like how I think it's beneficial to take ownership over what our own triggers are, like understand them better, and like sort of like do a DBT, like check the facts type situation around it, which is like, this person isn't actually bringing up a sex thing. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to, actually talk about anything untoward, but your brain is just primed to like receive that information and translate it into something that's like hurtful for you to experience. And it's in a way that the other person can't really predict. They don't like, there gets to be a point where it's too burdensome and it's like, okay, or maybe need to do some work to manage what our brain is doing. Not a therapist, but that to me, like if I had a friend that was going through that and like I couldn't even talk to them about like the most basic things, like, oh, I went on a new date with a person, and like that upset them and like they couldn't handle it, I'd be like, let's check in about that. Let's see what's going on there. It's not going to be easy to live life if that kind of level of thing is like causing deep emotional turmoil, It's okay to be sympathetic towards it and to be charitable and to try to like make room for them, but it's a two-way street. It's not just you're not doing anything maliciously wrong. I don't think. I have a unique issue. Most munches are not in Little Rock. They are in the surrounding cities. Oh, yeah, so it's probably a lot harder to get to. Yeah, a lot of the big munches are in cities. Hello, Evie. Love your content. As a person who just recently understood that BDSM is not some of my hobbies, a part of my identity, your content is super helpful in learning. You're so welcome, Victoria. Thank you for sharing. But would you have any good resources for finding kinky conventions and conferences besides something like FetLife? So there used to be a website that was called the Black Pomegranate, and they had like a catalog of all different kink events, like convention size conferences. I don't know if there's like an archive version of it. I think that there's still like the people behind it are still around. I don't think that their website is still up. Because if it's not them, I don't know of another website that's similar. Also, I love the fact that this lip gloss is called, bless Milani, it is called Fruit Fetish. And I love how they have a word advertised on their lip glosses that you can just buy at a Target or, whatever local store of your choice. You can get it at Rite Aid, Walgreens, whatever. And it just has the word fetish on it. And like any old kid that can read the fact that it says fruit fetish on it and go, Mommy, what does fetish mean? Why does my lip gloss say fetish on it? And that's not even a problem that even people think twice about. But I can't say the word fetish in a YouTube video without getting the whole thing age restricted. Not even once. Just humanity's in a weird place right now. Also, the S is like coming off. It's like, I don't know if it's supposed to be like off center from the other letters. I don't know what's going on there. It's called fruit fetish, and I find that we live in an age where you can have blush colors called orgasm, and we can have fruit fetish lip glosses, but we can't say either one of those words on YouTube. What is the world? I was going to say coming to, but I guess that's technically a pun, so just pretend I said something else instead. She misunderstands because they don't get off on saying I made dinner for us. It's weird connection to her knowing that I have a service-oriented dynamic gives her the thought in her head. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's rough because it's, she's the one that's making the assumption there. Like, you can tell her until you blue in the face that, like, it's not sexual, but, like, she's probably gonna only believe you as much as she actually wants to believe you, and she's kind of perpetuating her own suffering in a way there, unfortunately. I'm not really sure what the solution is to that, honestly, because it sounds like, unless you don't want to tell her anything about your life or relationship, which is fucking hard when you, like, live with a partner, like, you're just gonna pretend you don't live with someone? Like, okay. It's, you gotta, I don't know, it's like anything else in life. I think we know, like, it's weird to think about, like, well, our sibling, like, it has this, like, long-term boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, so they're probably having sex. But we don't, whenever we see our, like, siblings or whatever around a partner, like, our brains don't automatically leap to, like, thinking about how they have sex, right? Like, that would be weird if we always did that. And like, if we did that, that would be a thing that we would need to fix in ourselves, because that's an unusual behavior. And it was also weird if we do that with our friends when they talk about their partners. Like, to me, it's like a similar situation to that, where it's like, is it really something that you, as the person who's relaying an experience, needs to always just, like, tamp down on forever? Because this seems like the kind of thing that could, like, happen in other relationships, I don't know. Yeah, I've had to walk on eggshells when you talk to her. Yeah, it just seems to me that she's got her own, I don't know, her business is, but I think there's a lot of people have very uncomfortable, like, intrusive thoughts they don't really know how to deal with, and, like, the way they deal with them is oftentimes by, like, shutting down other people and telling them to just not talk about certain subjects because it makes them uncomfortable. But that quickly leads you to not being able to, when it happens enough, it quickly leads you to not being able to have very many, like, close long-term relationships because of how many things end up being, like, uncomfortable and unable to be talked about. Very, very weird. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of almost like, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. To me, that just sounds like something that seems like if you talked about it with a professional, they might be able to help with that in some way. If that's an issue that's ongoing, What is it called when you are available for a dungeon scene, and how do I communicate that to my dom? Okay. So what that sounds like to me is you're, like, talking about going to a public dungeon? What is it called when you are available for a dungeon scene? And how do I communicate that to my dom? Okay, so there's sort of two ways. I don't know. You tell me which way is like the actual way you mean this, and I'll sort of make an answer for both ways. So the first way you might mean it is that you were talking about going to a public dungeon, and you might meet people you don't know at this dungeon who want to play with you, and you want to signal that you're available to do a scene with them, and you're trying to figure out how to navigate and communicate about that with your dominant partner, you know, for those times when you want to do what's called like pickup play, where you're meeting up with somebody at a party, at an event, and you're playing typically that night with somebody you may not know very well outside of that play space. Or what you might be saying, and reading it the second time, I think maybe this might be what you're referring to, is you're talking about as a submissive, you would like to do a scene with your partner, and you're trying to figure out how to communicate to your dom that you are available to do a scene and like you would like to play. So the first one is like, okay, going to a public place and playing with people you don't know. That's a conversation you need to have with your partner about, you know, the boundaries of your relationship. Do you do things with other people? Different dungeon events. Some people will have name tags. Some people will have like a wristband system that is like color coordinated for, you know, top versus bottom. And then like if you're available to play or not, or they'll have like a sign up sheet or a whiteboard or like a scene planning thing on FetLife ahead of time. That's generally how people find people. Or you like, you know, you just watch someone do a scene, they do their aftercare, it's been a little bit, and then when they're free, you approach them and say, hey, I'd like to play with you. Are you available? Or I'm like curious about that one toy you use. Can you tell me more about it? Just like strike up a conversation. But if you're a submissive in a relationship and you want to play and you want to tell your partner that you are available for play, there are many different ways to do this. I have seen people have like a protocol in their relationship where they will, you know, bring a certain mug to their partner that's meant to, like, let's say you have a protocol where you know, every afternoon you bring your dom some like decaf coffee after they're done with lunch. And you can bring the coffee in a certain mug, and that means that you would like to play that night if they are available. Or you could wear like a certain pair of socks, or you could wear a certain article of clothing, or, you know, put a certain color of scrunchie in your hair. It could literally be anything, but just some kind of way of like visually signaling that's clear to your dominant that you've talked about beforehand. Because if you don't talk about it, you don't tell them the purple scrunchie means I want you to peg me. Like, they're not going to know that the purple scrunchie means you're down for pegging. Although purple is not the flagging color for pegging. Purple is the flagging color for piercing play. So you may look up the hanky code maybe if you want to be color coordinated. You don't have to, but that's a whole other issue there, getting into the hanky code. But as far as communicating for a dungeon scene, I find that's the best way to like unobtrusively and in a non-demanding way signal to your partner, hey, I'm available for playtime. You know, and then it lets them as the dominant decide, do they want to play that night? What kind of scene they want to do? When are they ready? You know, is it going to be right that minute? Is it going to be after dinner? Is it going to be during dinner? You know, when are you going to do the scene? Or is it going to be they're going to talk to you and then maybe plan something for like later in the week, that weekend, the following morning, when you go to sleep? You know, you'll have an opportunity for them to initiate and take leadership in that. So it doesn't feel like, you know, you're trying to like top from the bottom and like make them dom you or anything like that. I've also seen people have some kind of like speech protocol in place, either written or verbally, like, you know, writing a note or sending a text message or an email or saying something, you know, along the lines of like, sir, your, I don't know. You can kind of do this in like there's different angles. You can go in a very like pragmatic, direct way, which is like, like sore stop. Like, sir, you're submissive, humbly requests an opportunity to please you with play later this evening, right? You could do like that. You could do something where you just talk in very plain terms about, you know, you have sort of a, you know, I'm feeling like I'm looking forward to some play. When could we make time for that? Like, if that's something that's available in your protocol. Or again, you could write something. You could just put something in a note. You could slip it under their desk. You could, you know, wait to talk about it until they come home. If there's somebody who, like, if you live together and they come home from work. Or you could also, and this is very, very brave, you could also just like directly say what you want, and you can ask them like over text message. You can do a little like dirty foreplay stuff, and you be like, Master, are you free? There's something I've been thinking about that I really like to tell you about, ... And they can be like, yes, I always want to know everything you're thinking about me, devil smiley emoji. And then you can tell them like all this like fantasy that you've been thinking about doing. And then you can ask them like, is that something we might be able to do together? And then you can kind of plan a scene from there. I have found it is pretty much always a positive thing to like tell partners if you're thinking about them and you're like, hey, I had this dream, or I had this idea, or I thought this would be really cool. Like for the most part, at the bare minimum, they're like flattered that you were thinking about them in that way, and that like kind of like it's sort of like, even if you're not going to do something immediately, it's still sort of like psychological foreplay that's like building up until the next time you see each other, or the next time you have an opportunity to act on those feelings. And for the most part, I find that dominants really want to know what's going on in their submissives' heads. They want to know what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what turns them on, what they're looking forward to, what ideas they have, because it makes their job easier as a dom too. Like if there's like 200 different kinks you could be doing, it helps to narrow it down a little bit when you know your submissive's in the mood for like an over-the-knee spanking. Like, okay, thank God I have an idea for what to do next, because I was, trying to decide between 3 different things and I didn't really know what they were in the mood for. Like, it takes a little bit of a load off of them to be able to know what it is that you want to do too. So more communication is pretty much always better. I know it can be really hard. I think that's why writing and text messages and kind of indirect forms of communication can be simpler for a lot of folk, especially if you're not very practiced at communicating what your desires are. But I don't really think that there's like a distinct word for it, I guess. Like, you can just say that like you're available, you're willing, you're in the mood for something. Like, they don't really have a term for like that's like specific to like being in the mood for like doing a scene. And like what's appropriate for a way to communicate that depends on your relationship and whatever like protocol you set up. But ideally you should have some kind of way, I think, as a submissive to be able to communicate what sort of things you're looking for. Hubby wears a red pair of panties when he needs to be corrected now, thanks to one of your suggestions. Oh, delightful. I love that. That is the power of communication tools. Because I think a lot of people, they're embarrassed, like outside of like in a fun humiliation way. Like, people can be embarrassed to say like, I think I need to be punished, I need to be corrected, and having a subtle way to signal that that also like you as a submissive have like the power to choose to do or not. Like, you might have like an idea for something and then maybe you want your partner to know about it but not act on it. You get to choose how you communicate that. But more information and more communication is pretty much always going to be better. So finding a way to do it is in both of your interests, I believe. Great question though, thank you. How to style your makeup around different types of gags should definitely be a new category. I mean, I guess it depends on if you want to get lipstick on it or not. I think that's really the main thing. Oh, what's happening? My chat like froze for a minute. Okay, give me a second. I gotta find where I was in the chat again. I've had some issues with my past subs. It seems like a pattern. Whenever I try to talk about limits, wants, or needs, all I get is whatever you want. It feels like only I take that seriously. Yeah. I mean, this is part of the reason why I kind of sound like a broken record when I talk about this in my videos, because I know that a lot of other people like struggle with this, where like even like people that seem relatively experienced will say like, whatever you want, master, do whatever you want to me. And like, you can build up to that point in a relationship, but I don't think if you're like in a new relationship immediately, you're really authentically gonna mean like, do whatever you want to me. And I think it is a cop-out for people. I would probably say it's a worthwhile screening question for potential partners when you're going through a negotiation to talk about, don't even have it be like a question of like you trying to lead it of, like put it on them basically to tell you before you even get to the part of playing, like, can you actually tell me what you want? Like I might put something in a negotiation checklist that says, tell me about what your desires are for like a scene or this scene or like a power relationship, whatever kind of negotiation you're doing. And like, if they can't answer that, or their only answer is like, whatever you want to do, no, not good enough. Sorry. Like you need to do some more exploring, because that to me indicates you don't actually have enough experience to know what you want yet. And you're just like putting it on the other person. Cause it is, I think a lot of people find it easier when they don't have to do the introspection to know how to answer like what it is they actually want. Or their ideal fantasy is doing whatever the partner wants, and they don't like, okay, if you're not just using it as a screening question, and having them like list out all of your relevant limits or whatever. Like if maybe you're in the moment, maybe you didn't have those screening questions in place, and now you're with a partner that is giving you this kind of feedback. If you want to be nice and you're not just using it as like a, sorry, we can't play together kind of screening thing, which I think is totally valid to do, because at some point it's about your safety as a dominant partner. And I think it is, maybe this is even what you could say, right? Like, I'd love to hear more. Two-part thing. I would love to, one, ask somebody why they have this mentality, and then two, dive into what they're actually thinking of when they visualize like not having any limits. So one would be, so I hear you're telling me that you don't really have any limits and you just want what I want, and I'm really curious where that feeling comes from. Like, why do you think you don't have any limits? And just let them tell you like what having no limits means to them. Tell them, hey, I'm not saying that this is what you're thinking, but I do want to make sure you understand I will still like you and play with you even if you have limits. It's actually not more desirable to me if you don't have any limits at all. It actually makes my job harder, and I'm trying to make sure we can do things that are enjoyable for both of us, and it's a lot harder for me to do that if the only feedback I'm getting is just that you want to do whatever I want to do, because that's not realistic. Most people are not actually that way. It is okay to have limits, and if somebody told you, or you got the impression one way or the other that limits and having your own wants and needs are bad or not submissive, that is untrue, and I want to make sure that you understand that. So maybe try to help them explore why they feel the need to frame things that way. Like, are they feeling embarrassed about saying something? Are they feeling judged? Do they think that they seem more impressive as a submissive if they say they don't have any limits? What kind of experience they have or not, if they've actually been doing kink for as long as they have given you the impression they've been doing kink for. I would explore that, and then you can walk them through doing an exercise of like, okay, so I hear you're saying you don't have any limits and it's just whatever I want. I would love to know more about what you are visualizing, experiencing when you say I can do whatever I want. What does it actually mean? Like, what do you actually picture in your head? And then hopefully the other person can tell you, well, I'm picturing that we're in a dark room and it's at a dungeon and I'm wearing this kind of outfit and you're dressed like this and, I'm kneeling in front of you. And, you've got a big paddle in your hand, and I have my eyes downcast, and I'm saying, you can do whatever you want to me, master. And then you pick me up by my hair and throw me against the bed, and you spank me, and I'm crying and I'm screaming, and I tell you to stop, but you don't stop because you're doing whatever you want to me, and blah, blah, blah. Like, you actually have them tell you. And then if, this would be a little, but, you can say, well, you said you wanted to do whatever I want, and what I actually want you to do is I want you to tell me what you're thinking about and what your desires actually are. That's what I want to know. And hopefully they can tell you they're visualizing something. Because if somebody tells you that they both want to do whatever you want, and that they also have no idea in their head of what that means when they say it, either they're completely out of touch with their own inner world, or they're just like lying and embarrassed and cannot get over that to actually like say what their genuine desires are. And if they still can't tell you at all anything that they want to be experiencing or anything that they're actually visualizing in their head, like they are not a safe person to play with. And I would like be very blunt, and I would be very upfront, and I would tell them that, and I would say, you know, in a kind way, you know, I appreciate you telling me about this. I know it can be really hard. For my own safety and my own well-being, I don't feel safe playing with someone that does not really seem to know what their own limits and desires are. If you feel like you're open to playing with them in the future, you can say that. You can say, I hope that you stay safe. I think that it might be beneficial for you to take some more time learning things and doing some exploring, because I don't want you to get hurt. And I think this mentality might lead you to get into negative interactions or negative relationships that are not really going to be serving you. So just like encourage the person to explore themselves more, maybe give them perspectives that they weren't getting if they did believe that, like, you know, real submissives don't have limits or whatever. And hopefully they'll feel more encouraged to explore themselves. But I don't feel like you have to play with someone when they don't actually know what they want. Because, like, what the fuck are you going to do with that? Like, because they have limits. That's the thing, right? That's why it's dangerous to play with them, is because they do actually have limits, but they're not communicating what they are. Because if you say, oh, you can do whatever you want to me, well, okay, let's get at the clippers, and I'm going to cut off all your hair, I'm going to shave off your eyebrows, and then we're going to start taking out your fingernails. And then, you know, we're going to give you lip injections. And then we're going to do whatever. Like, you're going to get the tattoo needle I've always wanted to practice with. Like, that can quickly escalate into, like, a ton of shit that they probably are not even aware is, like, on the possibility radar. And I'm not saying you should, like, scare people by, like, you know, threatening them with that stuff. But, like, in the reality of things, that is what they're dealing with by saying they don't have any limits. I do consider mind play to be an edgy kink. I think anything involving like emotional experiences and mental stuff, generally speaking, is edge play. Playing with emotions is honestly sometimes more intense than playing with physical stuff, like just physical stuff by itself. I would also, if this is a pattern you run into, I would also, if it's a pattern, and this is not me saying it's your fault in any way, I am also suggesting, in addition, there is some selection that you are doing too to find partners that are consistently this way. Like, I don't find partners that are this way. I very rarely talk to people. Like, I can count on half of one hand the number of people I've talked to in a negotiation process that have ever told me, like, I don't have any limits. Like, the only time it's happened is I was with somebody who was with a very experienced masochist that legitimately, like, in the boundaries of the types of physical play I was willing to do, did not have any limits that, like, were within what I wanted to do, right? So, like, if I was into, like, trampling, caning, whatever, like, they had no limitations around that. I could go as hard as I wanted with that. I could do it anywhere I wanted to on their body. Like, that was fine. Like, they may have had limits about, like, you know, sexual penetration or, you know, pet names or something, but it wasn't in this, they didn't have limits in the scope of what was on the table to begin with, if that makes sense. So I've only really interacted with that very, very few times, but I think if you're finding yourself repeatedly, like, only finding the same people over and over again, it's worth evaluating what is your process for finding partners, where are you finding people, how are you talking to people, and maybe trying to recalibrate to hopefully find some more experienced people, or at least people that are more open about talking about their limits, their wants, their needs. Maybe looking more for people who are switches. I find that switches tend to be a little bit more open, and not even necessarily more open, but a little bit more experienced with talking about this stuff because they do play on both sides. So they might know themselves a little bit better because of that. Thank you for the advice. To be honest, just hearing you say that helps. I was starting to think I'm in the wrong. It is totally a case of just because I'm a dom doesn't mean I don't care about your enjoyment. Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, if there's ever, like, consistent problems with, like, I don't know why I keep finding the same kind of people over and over again, there might just be something that you're, like, in your vetting process or in, like, the types of people that you're attracted to or whatever, that you're sort of, like, picking up on something, and it's good to sort of introspective about what that might be and how you can fix that for your own sake. But it's mostly like 99% the other people. Just also sometimes like we can do a better job of filtering too. It can go both ways. Thank you. I know I finally grown my hair to a place that I'm really happy with it. Like I've been debating whether or not to grow out my bangs for a long time, and I finally decided to do it because it gets to a point where it's like it flips in and out because it can get tucked behind my ears, and I think I finally found like the right spot. We're chill, I swear. We just get the occasional weirdo. I know. If only the outside world totally understood that. Yeah. Yeah. The herb I mentioned earlier is called silphium, I think. Yeah, silphium. We're gonna go with that, silphium. And it was principally used as seasoning. It was allegedly highly effective aphrodisiac and contraceptive. Although they did recently find a single sample of it on an island, I think in July. So we'll see if that comes back. It's very, very exciting botany news. Yeah. It was early this year. It was in July. It was a couple weeks ago, I think, actually. Or maybe that was the news article I read. It was from July. It maybe actually was earlier, but that's when I saw the article. How do you establish your first poly partner if you and the person you want to be with are both solo/single and for polyamory? So are you both doing solo polyamory? Okay. Maybe I'm not. Let me think about this. Okay, so how do you establish your first poly partner if you and the person you want to be with are both solo/single and for polyamory? Because I read that one way and I think, oh, maybe they mean like you're both doing solo polyamory, but you now want to be in like a partnership and not just do solo poly. Or maybe what you mean is you were monogamous, then you were single, but you both want to try monogamy, or you both want to try polyamory, and so now you're going from formerly monogamous, single, to dating and polyamorous. I think that one is maybe more likely. Having done this before, but while I was already poly previously, I did not find it to be particularly difficult. Like I don't think I really ever had to do anything that was like special to establish that. I just like, I don't know, because I don't have like vanilla social media or anything, so I don't have like, I don't know, like a Facebook page I gotta update to be like, oh, I'm in a relationship, or like it's complicated, or like I'm with any particular person. Like I don't actually have to do any of that, so I kind of didn't have to do anything other than like if I continued to go on dates with people, I would say like, oh, instead of having, one partner, I have two partners, or however many partners I had. And then if the details were important, I would talk about like, oh, I've been with this person for so long, and I've been with this person for so long, and this is how we met, and this is what kind of relationship we have, and if we live together, if we don't live together, whatever, Over the course of my life, I've had many different types of polyamorous relationship arrangements and different levels of involvement with various people. But I didn't really have to do anything in particular to like establish it. It just sort of like happened. And then like as we continued, like, I don't know, I guess, as far as like how to like navigate the relationship, I did this both for polyamory and for kink. If I'm getting to the point where it's like, gonna be like a really serious relationship, like I'll go through like a questionnaire with the person, or I try to make it like a fun thing, like sort of this is symbolic of us deepening our relationship. We want to get to know each other like really deeply to make sure we're on the same page about stuff. And a lot of it's going to be things that have come up in other conversations, but we're really trying to make sure we're like fully understanding what each person means by what's being said. So we'll talk about like our relationship visions for what we want for a relationship in terms of like, living together or living separately. Do you want to date the same people? Do you want to date separately? Do you want to like date together, or do you want to date separately? In that way. Do you want to like have a commune with 20 people on it, or do you want to like have an apartment that's yours and then like your other partner owns a house and that's like, you know, where you spend 5 days of the week, but the other 2 are in an apartment. Like, you know, you can come with all different kinds of arrangements for that. Like, how do you feel about kids? How do you feel about kink? How do you feel about power exchange relationships? How do you feel about, you know, intermingling finances, you know, all of the like big picture relationship stuff that is very important to people, you know, in terms of sharing values, sharing religion, sharing life goals, sharing career goals, you know, how you want to interact. Like some people, like for example, I am really into like just kind of being around other people. I really like just hanging out, like being on the couch with someone and like I'm reading a book and then they're playing a video game quietly, and then we like have tea together, like have dinner together. I really like doing stuff like that with a person, especially if like most of our other interactions are more structured or more intentional. I also like having time to just like decompress. Other people don't really like that, and they prefer to like be active, doing stuff together, you know, doing a project, going on an outing, and not really just like being side by side, but not necessarily like super involved with each other, you know, doing something at the exact same time together. So it's just about sort of establishing that you both really know what your goals are and that you're compatible in that way. What you think of polyamory, like what is important to you about poly, what does that look like, and how you want to practice it in terms of dating practices, sex practices, you know, STI testing, barrier usage, any of that stuff. How you want to communicate about it. Like, I think that's probably the really big part is, okay, you're going to get together, you're going to be in a polyamorous relationship together. How do you navigate, you know, talking about dates, talking about, you know, going over to meet someone at their house, going out for like a third date, or when you want to start having sex or start doing kink stuff together. How do you talk about that? When do you talk about it? Some people, and I don't really think that there's a right or a wrong way to do it. I think if you're reading all of your partner's text messages, that's probably the wrong way. And if you don't ever want to hear about it in any capacity ever, and you want to pretend it's not happening, that's probably not the right way. Those things are the two extremes I'd try to stay away from, like being way over involved or way under involved. But there's a spectrum of things I think can be healthy and best for the people involved. It just depends on individually what they want. So that could be anything from like, oh, well, like, I don't really need to know if you're using an app or not because I'm going to assume you're going to be on one. But, you know, if you're getting to the point of like planning a date or you have planned one, then I want to know about it. Or maybe you don't even want to know that, but like maybe you want to know, like, okay, once you've gone out on a couple dates and you think you might have, you know, physically intimate interactions, when it gets to that point, then I want to know about it. And I want to make sure we're on the same page about like condom usage and that kind of thing. So that's how I would talk about it. I think body doubling is more of an ADHD thing. There's like parallel play, which is what I'm talking about, and then like body doubling is for like helping people be productive and like getting things done, not just like hanging out. There's overlap, but they're not exactly the same thing. Me and my live-in partner are like that. She's on her computer and I'm on mine. We're side by side. We're also autistic, so parallel play is a thing. Yeah, exactly. I love parallel play. A big proponent of it. Because I'm very introverted and very quiet. I really need a lot of like, I mean, I really love having like nice conversations with my partners. I like having, you know, face-to-face conversations about, I don't know, the nature of things and, you know, philosophy or whatever. Like I like that too, but it's also, to me, it's a special kind of, this is like a special kind of quiet vulnerability to just be like around someone when they're in their natural state. Dog, you are so cute. It's against the law. You are doing something illegal because you are so cute. Do you even know that? Do you even know? You don't care about the law. You don't care. You're a dog. They can't arrest you because you're a dog. Good point. Sorry, just had to converse with the doggo for a second. Great questions, y'all. I'm loving all these questions. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's already 7:30. How the time flies. I haven't heard parallel play. That term makes more sense. Yeah, parallel play is like when you're playing side by side, but you're not playing with each other. Perpendicular play sounds funny. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before. But yeah. Parallel play is like when kids are like playing different games side by side. That's where the term comes from originally. When you got someone that you can just sit next to and not say anything to for a while, it just feels otherworldly. Yeah, like it's a very like deep trust to be like, you're in my environment. I'm allowing you into my personal private space. And we're just like, I'm scrolling my phone and I'm looking at Twitter and you're watching TikToks your mom sent you and like reading a book or whatever, listening to an audiobook. And then like later we might get dinner. Just like it speaks to the level of comfort in the relationship that you don't have to be doing anything. It's just enough to be by the person. And I really like that. I think it's special. To be fair, I didn't name her Bandita. She came with that name. And her actual name is her actual name is Bandit. But I can't say that because it's her like activation word. Like if I say her just like legal name as opposed to her nickname, she'll activate. So I have to give her silly nicknames so she does not that are more casual, so she doesn't overreact to stuff. But she came with that name. I didn't pick it. She's a lawbreaker, breaking the laws of love. She's like got her tongue out. It's ridiculous. How is that possible? This is what I do every day. And every time I've ever had anyone over or like someone's been around me and my dog, they're just like, you just like point at your dog and point at how cute she is and look at her and take pictures. And I'm like, yep, that's my life. That's what I do. I mean, can you blame me? What is that? Okay, anyways, enough of a dog break. Let's get back into it, shall we? Looking for questions. Talking about healing. Good stuff. Okay, I got leading to the bottom of the chat. That would be one thing I'd like to change about YouTube's chat feature. Just make it so why can't I just infinitely scroll the chat? Why is that not a functionality I have as a creator? You know, I get to have. I get not everyone having it, but come on, it's my stream. It's my stream. So I'm kind of new to the streams, been a video viewer for a while. Just my question again, if it got skipped or just see what happens. It's okay either way. I try my best to go in order. I did actually answer your question, but it might take a while. I do miss things because the YouTube chat will like skip forward. Like if I get so many messages, it'll like skip me forward. So I will miss some, but I did see yours. And usually at the end, I'll give people like a 15-minute warning. And then if you want to re-ask it, if I didn't get to it, then you can ask it again. And then I'll try my best to get to it if I can do a little more of a rapid fire round. I have a question. I am the wifey of our relationship, and I recently found out that I love being spanked. How can I incorporate that with my hubby without offsetting our power dynamic? Okay, use the capital W for wifey. So I'm gonna guess that's like a cutesy female-led relationship term, which I love. I love that. So, I mean, I think it will take some adjustment because I find oftentimes male submissives and male bottoms who play with women, a lot of them have ideas about what the ideal, like, perfect FLR or dominant woman looks like, and usually that does not involve ever being submissive or ever being a bottom for anything. It's a very weird, like, extreme form of purity testing that I don't think is actually beneficial, but it doesn't, people still do it. So I think if I was in your position and I wanted to not offset the power dynamic, but you do enjoy being spanked, I would simply frame it as another thing that he can do for your pleasure. Because, I mean, it is, like, factually, like, especially a lot of, you know, I mean, people of all different combinations of genitalia enjoy it, but, like, particularly people with vulvas, I find, tend to get a lot out of spanking because of, like, you hit it in the right spot, you get some vibrations, things happen, all right? You know what I'm saying? Things can go a certain way. So it makes sense that it's like, it can also be a pleasurable thing for you. And actually, it can kind of almost be like a like a mental thing where you're still in control, and it's almost because he doesn't like doing it, it makes you like it more because you're like making him do it, even if it's not really for him. So I might honestly, I think the idea that comes to my head first is like, if you ever do anything with like massage, like maybe you can set it up to where like he's giving you like a back massage or something, and he's like maybe doing more of like a body worship type thing, and it's about like lavishing you and telling you how amazing and beautiful your body is, and just, you know, really emphasizing that this is about like your pleasure, and him emphasizing how much he appreciates your body. And then during that, you can start to incorporate like you know, you ordering him to spank you. And like I think the more exact with it you can be, the more feedback you can give, the more it will keep you in the place of being dominant in terms of you know, the speed of it, where he's spanking, how hard he's spanking, you know, all those little factors that can go into spanking. You know, what's his style? Is he kind of like, is he scooping? Is he like just tapping? Is he, you know, what is his technique when he's doing it? You can be very exact with it and tell him exactly how you want it to be done. And, you know, don't let him stop until you say you're done. Don't let him stop until you say it's over. And, you know, maintain control of that situation as much as possible, and emphasize this is happening because I want it to, and because I'm telling you to do it, and because I like it, and it's for my pleasure, and I don't care if you like it or not. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. Deal with it. You know, if that's your relationship dynamic, at least. But I think emphasizing it as a form of like loving service because you find pleasure out of it, while still maintaining that space of being in control, is going to be the best. I'm sure that there are certain spanking positions that are like more or less authoritative than others. I can't really think of any off the top of my head. I think maybe like the position you're in physically might make a difference too. Like I think, you know, like an OTK spanking, for example, is probably not going to feel as like dominant for you as, you know, you're on a table or you're like perched on your throne or something, and then you're getting a spanking that way, right? Part of the reason I loved it was being slightly out of control, but when I think about it, I kind of like the controlling him aspect of it too. Interesting. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not saying you can't go there. I think if you're not wanting to rock the boat of your power change relationship, probably the safest way to do that is by maintaining as much control during the experience as possible. And I think once you're able to do that, and you can kind of like do it and then see that like the rest of your relationship isn't changing, then I think it'll feel safer, and it'll feel easier to also get into doing spanking scenes where you're like less in direct control of what's happening, if that makes sense. It's definitely possible to do both, but I think if we're looking for like the easiest transition, that's probably the easier way to do it. Without, you know, and then just like having open communication about it, you know, talking about, you know, how you each feel about it, what would be different, what could be done better next time. And if it's, you know, there is a possibility it could just upset your partner to the point where they're like, I can't do this. I don't want to be a top at all. This is too much for me. Like, you have to respect that if that does happen, but hopefully you can find a way to do it to where both of your desires are being met. To quote Miriam Green, what's the point of having a boy if you can't tell him to hit you? I've never heard that quote before, but now I'm interested. Now I'm interested. Oh, had a frame rate drop. Don't know what's going on with that. Oh, looks like it was just a little temporary thing. We're coming back here. Okay. Well, we have like half an hour left, so hopefully YouTube can keep it together for that long, if nothing else. But good question. Good question. Thank you for your advice, to be honest. Oh no, I just read that. Yeah. Sounds like fun. I basically shown him I can handle and implement better. I love that, actually. It's sort of like, because you hear that from bottoms sometimes. They're like, you don't know how hard this is. And then like most doms, when they do things, will be like, oh my God, you let me hit you like that? That's horrible. And then occasionally you'll have a dom or a top who turns it around and goes, see, look, not that hard. You know, it's sort of, did you see the clip of Ariana Grande eating the spiciest hot wing, and then her saying like, well, it's not even spicy, it's even hot, I even have hot sauce on it. I like the idea of doing like the kink version of that, like, what, this is hard. Because there's sort of like a humiliation in that of like, I'm even a dom and I can be a better bottom than you can. And I think that's fun to play with. I think that's fun. Problem is because of where I live, it is harder to find kinky folk. Maybe because kink is less prevalent here, is less known. It's always a possibility. I mean, depending on where you live, you're going to have more or less options for kinky partners. Even in big cities, depending on like where you live and what the culture of it is like, you can have very different experiences trying to find kink partners. How do you get to the point where you could be caned, tiring my master out, and I could go on? Okay, I feel hiccup's coming on. I'm going to hope that's not actually going to be a thing. So I think what you're saying is, how can I get to the point where I have enough endurance during caning to where my partner will tire out before you do? And here's the sad news I have for you. Caning, especially if you're doing it when your top is like sitting down and you're lying on a table and they're just doing like tap, 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 tap. They could probably do that for fucking ever. Unless they have carpal tunnel or they have some kind of like wrist injury that they could provoke by doing this. It would be extremely unlikely that specifically with caning, you would be able to tire out your partner before you tire out, just because of the pain level to level of effort with caning is so skewed. You would be more likely to break the cane first than you would to like actually tire out your partner. This is why a lot of older people in the scene really like caning, because it's very low impact for the dom or the top, but very high reward for the masochist. So, and also because there's like, it's more traditional and like it's more, like, it's a different era. You know, people saw different things when they were growing up and have different interests in them. So if you want to do an implement thing in general where you could tire out your partner more, before you get tired out, you're going to have to ask your partner to do something way more physical. You're going to have to do like something that really uses their hand, or it could be like flogging is usually really tiring on people, especially if they're doing like a Florentine flogging. That can be quite tiring. Anything with like slapping, kicking, punching, spanking, that category can be more tiring. If you're trying to tire out with your partner with a cane, it would probably have to be a heavier cane. It'd have to be a thicker cane. But I don't even think that would necessarily do it. It really just depends. I guess I would actually say the solution is just to set really realistic expectations and maybe do a different implement if you want to tire out your partner before you're ready to be done, if that's really the goal. Hi, Evie. Hope you're doing well. I am doing very good. I'm excited because I found eyeliner that I like. So I am doing great. I'm very tired. I actually spent a lot of time today, like probably 3 or 4 hours. I was writing a video that's been very tough for me to write. And actually, after stream, I'm going to take a little break and probably watch something and relax before I go to the gym, just to kind of get my mind off it, because it's been kind of a draining subject to talk about. Like, how do you make the first partnership? Oh, that was from like a question like a long time ago. With how do you make the, I think I talked about that. You know, it's like, it's all about negotiating. It's all about talking about what you both want from the relationship, and both how you both want to practice polyamory. Because like, you can meet someone who's also polyamorous and they could have a completely different way of doing it. Like, they can want to have like I want to co-raise, a family with like 4 other people on a commune, and, I want to homeschool all our kids together while we pick vegetables. And then you can be the kind of poly person who's like, I want us to have separate apartments in the same building, and we can go and hang out with each other when we feel like it, but otherwise we live separately. Like, you can want very different things. So it just depends. And I think that's the most important thing to set up, is those expectations and making sure you're similar enough to where being primary partners together makes sense. He's a natural Spanko. I've been leading for 15 years now. That's congratulations. But just learned how to enjoy a good spank, eye-opening. I'm glad that you got to have a positive experience with that. Congratulations. Okay. But I'm going to give, because I know I missed a lot of questions earlier, we have about 20 minutes left. If I've not gotten to your question yet, or you didn't recently ask it in the last 5 or 10 minutes, please go ahead and re-ask it again now, and I will get to it as soon as I can. Hi, dog. Why are you looking at me, baby? Hi. Hi, my baby. Oh, I know. We'll get pets after this, honey. We'll get pets after. Ridiculous. What a ridiculous creature I have in my house. Does one pain level change with experience, or does it say, does your pain level or a person's pain level change with experience, or does it stay the same? I find it depends on the implement. So whips, for example, no matter how much I've done them, my pain tolerance for them has never changed because it's such an adrenaline thing for me. Whips are whoosh, adrenaline, whoosh, adrenaline, whoosh, adrenaline. Every single time it strikes, it's so much adrenaline that there's not even using pain processing techniques, it doesn't actually, the stimulus doesn't feel any different. I just get better with coping with the massive rush of adrenaline it gives me, which is it literally, when I get struck by a whip, especially if it's a fairly hard strike, sort of, let's say a 5 to a 9 on the intensity scale in terms of how, because whips can also be, you can use them quite softly where it's more of a flick, but when you're actually striking with it, as you typically would for most scenes, I just I get my extremities get cold. I feel almost sort of like a cold shock sensation. The only way you can describe it is a very quick, kind of unpleasant adrenaline rush, and I don't really like it. So I've never really changed my pain tolerance level for that. But with other kinks, absolutely. For something like spanking, paddling, flogging, I think a lot of people are able to build up tolerance to that over time because of the how easy it is to slowly work up the intensity. So you can start on a 0 to 2, and then when you get used to that, you can go up to what used to be a 3 or a 4, and now that feels like a 0 to 2, and then so on and so forth until you're playing quite intensely, and then it can actually still feel quite mild because you're doing all this warm up, your skin is more conditioned. Part of it is also a mind over matter thing to a certain extent. Part of the reason, pain's a very interesting phenomenon. It's both a physical sensation, it's also very mental. It also depends on our cultural upbringing around pain, how we perceive pain, the stories we tell ourselves about pain, and our pain tolerance. There's so much that psychologically happens with pain too, that it's not just purely a physical thing. But as we get physically conditioned to pain, because our bodies send pain signals out, in part because it's warning, things happening, danger, alert, pay attention to this. And so if your body learns, okay, this stimulus is not actually that intense, it's not actually really causing any harm, we don't actually have to send out the troops, to alert ourselves to this experience. It kind of can help you relax more as it gets normalized. And also it is partly skin conditioning as well, and getting, your skin on a surface level, getting used to receiving certain types of impact play. So there's lots of factors, but the short answer is that yes, your pain level can change, but it depends on the person, the implement, and it's not, you can't predict what that's going to look like. You may have a little bit of a change. It may totally change. It's very subjective and also very individual. Did Cut get you to be on their show after your video on matching the kink of the person? Despite my perfect score, and also that I live in the area, as far as I know, I've not had anyone reach out to me from Cut to be featured in a video. So I'm sad. Maybe one day though, maybe one day. In my experience, tolerance is linked to exposure. The more you engage, the more it takes, so it's nice to change the type of pain to prevent desensitization. There's also a factor too, if you're mixing up different different types of implements, different types of stimulation that can also change your ability to perceive pain too. Oh, Rune, how would you go about finding a couple who wants to be in a throuple, air quotes around that, and not just looking for a one-night stand? Okay, so you mean like you actually want to date two people. Believe it or not, Rune, that is what's called being a unicorn. And I am sure that if you advertise you would like to be the third for a relationship, you will get responses. I have, in the last couple months, I've been testing out different dating apps, and across all of them, I have seen not as many as you might assume. I've seen probably like at least half a dozen, but probably not quite a dozen, maybe like 8 or 9 profiles that were like very openly like, we are two people looking for another person to date, usually looking for a woman because the other woman, maybe they got married young, whatever, they're exploring their bisexuality for the first time, whatever, whatever that story is. But that's more common. I have not seen anyone on any of the dating apps I've been on who explicitly say they are a unicorn. So let's say generously, it's maybe a 1 to 10 ratio of like one unicorn for every 10 couples that are looking at minimum for people that are looking to have a third in a relationship. I would be very clear up front in your profile if that's what you want. Like maybe not have it be the first thing, but I would say, if you say you're like in an open relationship or open to non-monogamy, or like whatever the option is on the app that you're using, you can say in there, I would love to be the third in a relationship. I'm not looking for a hookup. I'm not looking for a one-night stand. I actually want to date and be in a relationship with more than one person at a time. And that's what I'm looking for. And hopefully people will respect that and just be like, honestly, I see so many people have like terrible conversations on dating apps. And I wonder how much of it is like, well, depending on the app you use, some of them people can just send you messages. But like if you're engaging in a conversation with somebody on a dating app back and forth, like you chose to match with that person before you started talking. And like, did we do the best job that we could have at looking for red flags and looking for actual meaningful compatibility first before just like saying yes and talking to this person? Because I am mind blown by the sort of people that are like the sort of people that you meet on dating apps allegedly that will just like say the most like sexist, unhinged shit. Because I've been on dating apps for like 8 years at this point, and I've never matched with anyone on any of them that has ever started an inappropriate conversation with me. Like, it just doesn't happen, and I think that's partly because I'm very picky with who I match with, and so I'm not like, I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know what I want. Like, so I tend to know what I want a lot more, and I think because of that, I've rooted out a lot of the people that are not, as serious or might send me those kinds of messages that are not very nice, so... the point of me bringing that up is really just to say, filter thoroughly. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. I would caution being somebody's first ever, third in a relationship if you can, because you're also new. I would look for people who have more experience doing this. You're probably going to have more luck, not just on dating apps, but like going to like polyamorous meetup groups. They don't really have, like, I'm sure somebody somewhere calls it a bunch, but they probably shouldn't. You can go to polyamorous meetup groups. You can go to events for polyamorous people, and that can be a good way to meet people as well. OMG, really? I'm a woman in my 20s and I didn't know it was in demand. Oh, big time. Oh my God. People love, that's like the number one way that people want to have an open relationship is a throuple. And going back even on my streams, the number one thing that people ask me about when they're like, we're thinking about trying polyamory, is it's an established couple who wants to date a third person together. Like, they don't want to separately date. They don't want to like have like another couple they date. They want specifically a singular other third person to date together. That's what they're looking for. So yes, you are a hot commodity. Congratulations. Be careful though, because you're rare, and sometimes thruples do not attract, or triads, that's my preferred term. I think triads like sounds better. Because for me, it's like, I don't know, maybe this is pedantic, but in my mind, I see like thruple sounds like couple plus a third, right? Where it's still couple centric. Whereas triad to me seems more equilateral. You know, it seems more like an equilateral triad, you know, triangle situation where it's equal on all sides. Whereas throuple sounds more like we're doing a couple, but with 3 people involved. And like, that doesn't sound like it's as equitable, but that's my opinion. Also, it's kind of a gross word, in my opinion. Part of the reason oh no, we just talked about that. Three wishes. Vanilla, kink, 3 for each. Oh, Jesus. I don't even know where to... I don't even know where to start with that. For my first wish for kink, I don't know how big I can scale these up. I think my first wish for kink is that we had some kind of reputable, unassailable, by defamation law, system of reporting consent violations that people would take seriously and listen to, and that event coordinators and people who want to put together events would access and like actually like listen to. That's my first wish. My second wish is I would really like to have a really nice public dungeon that has all the shit in it that I care about, which is like, I want there to be like I want it to be like not in the city. I want it to be like in the woods, private property. I want it to have like a pool, a hot tub. I want there to be outdoor showers. I want there to be a place for camping. I want there to be like really nice, like well accommodated, different like themed rooms for people. I want there to be places for people to sleep. I want it to be just nice, private, relaxing. And like I've been to dungeons that are similar to probably what I would picture, but like usually they're like private rental stuff. They're not like for like bigger scale community events, and they don't have everything I'm looking for. That would be probably my second big goal for kink. And then my other wish. See, it's hard because it's like I don't really like. I'm not trying to talk to you all about like my deep dark fucking fantasy experiences that I have. Like I don't try to focus my kink education stuff on what my deep personal desires are. So I'll leave my third one private just for me. Vanilla wishes. I wish I had enough money to buy a house. I wish I could buy a house. Maybe I could buy the house I turn into a dungeon. I don't know. I wish that my dog could live forever. And I don't know. I feel like anything that's not like, I wish that climate change would stop, or I wish that like Gaza wouldn't be burned to the ground. Like I think my third wish has to be something that like instrumentally makes it so like the planet isn't about to like decimate itself in the next like 20 years. I think anything else I wish for has to be like, and then I want to save the planet from ecological collapse. That has to be my third wish, has to be averting ecological collapse magically overnight, making society so that way everyone is cared for, and then we are stopping the destruction of humanity and the planet via our terrible practices. And make it so everywhere in the world has high quality, frequent, high speed rail. There we go. That's my third wish. Oh gosh. Okay. I missed a couple. How do I get more endurance when my master is inflicting pain on me? Because when I get caned, he is swinging and I bend over and it's with bamboo. I mean, that sounds very... Well, first of all, you shouldn't be caning with... First note, you should not be caning with bamboo. Hopefully he's actually using rattan and you just think it's bamboo. But please don't use bamboo because it can splinter and get stuck in your butt, and you really don't want to recreate that scene with the hyenas from The Lion King. So don't use bamboo. But if you want to make more endurance possible when you are playing with your partner, have a warm-up, start slowly, and then basically what you want to do is you want to go up and then you want to go back down and go up and go back down. So you want to go from like 0 to 1 to 2, and then back to 1, and then back to 0, and then back to 1, and then back to 2, and then 3, and then back to 2, and then back to 1, and then back to 0. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, you're sort of ramping it up and down, and you're getting used to something, and then reducing the pain, and then going up again, and then going back, so on and so forth. So hopefully you'll be fully warmed up and fully ready to get into whatever level of pain you are hoping to be able to experience. But mostly it's just really a time thing. It's more of an experience thing. You can't really rush having more pain tolerance. It's just going to take having more scenes, having more of a warm-up. And to be honest, caning is a pretty intense thing to try and have. Like, if you haven't had experience increasing your pain tolerance with any other thing, I would probably not start with caning. I would probably start with another implement like, paddling, spanking, flogging, something like that, where it's a little bit easier to adjust the level of intensity as more than you can with caning. So the caning, you can be very subtle. You can do caning that's lighter, but I find it's a little bit harder to do that while you're trying to adapt and do some pain processing stuff if you haven't ever done it with another implement before. It's not, I wouldn't say caning is like advanced necessarily, but you're getting at least into like intermediate territory with pain and endurance with caning. I'd probably start with something else first. Hopefully splinters aren't their kink, but hey, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? Okay, I'm going to my first dungeon this month, and I'm kind of anxious about it. What should I expect from one that's taking place in a lounge-type setting with live music? Oh, with live music! Without knowing the venue, I can't really say for sure, because I haven't been to that dungeon. Everyone's a little bit different. I will say, if it's what to me is a better quality event, I would expect there to be some like milling and socializing first before people get into play. You'll probably have people like maybe onesies or twosies that come in and like immediately start doing a scene. But for the most part, especially at like not a big event, like not a convention, most people that are at dungeons, they're going to socialize, they're going to have some snacks, they're going to catch up with people, and then they might get into doing some scenes. There may be some kind of icebreaker activity for new people. There might not be. But as the night goes on, you're going to get more and more people showing up. Usually I find like the peak of attendance is probably like 2 or 3 hours into a dungeon party. It's usually not immediately as soon as doors open. And then you'll see people doing scenes. Usually, again, this is very regional, so it depends on where you live. You'll probably see like some rope bondage. You'll see lots of impact play. You will definitely see nudity. You may see some sex, you may not. Different places have different rules about this. So some places are going to be very focused on sex and some are not. Most of the places I've been to are not at all, and it's actually sort of unusual for sex to happen, but not every venue is going to be that way. You may see some people doing role play, but the main thing you're going to be seeing is probably like impact play, flogging, spanking, kind of the things we've been talking about a lot in the stream. And then you may see some people doing things like bondage, electroplay, maybe some more intense scenes, but that's going to be the vast bulk of it will probably be that. And then you'll probably have some places to like stand and talk with people to socialize. There'll probably be an aftercare area, and it'll just be sort of, a lot of people will be watching, and there'll be some people doing scenes. Again, depending on it, I found in most places, there's a premium on space to do scenes, so most people will probably be watching and socializing, and then there'll be some people doing scenes just for like space reasons and nothing else. But yeah, otherwise, I'm not really sure what to say. Without knowing the space specifically, that's probably the most general overview I could give you. Okay, we will do one more question here. Who will the lucky person be? Thank you. I'm glad that you enjoy it. Wifey-led marriage. I appreciate it. I wanted to explore my kinky sub side. Being a newbie, FetLife and Munches can be daunting. Fair enough. I have always wanted to explore one-on-one in a relationship. How do you look to finding a dominant partner? So how do you look for a dominant partner? I do think Munches is probably the best way to meet somebody that's a dominant partner, because that means they're invested enough in the community to go to a munch. There are a lot of people who will call themselves dominant that don't really mean it, or maybe have a different sense of what being a dominant is from somebody who's actually in the community. Like I found very oftentimes on dating apps, I've matched with people who say that they're dominant or like interested in kink and are more on the dom side. And then what they actually mean is they're really into like being in control sexually, which to me is not what I'm looking for. And is not the style of dominance that's what I'm about personally. So going to a munch, look for ones that are about activities. I mentioned this earlier, but you will have munches that are about, board games, pool, D&D sessions, rock climbing, going on hiking trips, walking around the lake. I really recommend activity-centered dungeon or munch experiences for people who are a little bit newer, because then you have something you can go and do that's not just like talking to people. If it's the munch with 75 people RSVP'd to it, probably don't go to that one. Probably go to the one that has like 20 people, or maybe like 30 people. That's probably going to be more manageable. Or go to one that's more for new people. If there's discussion groups, that's also a good way to meet people there as well. And then look for things like mixer events, speed dating. Kinky speed dating has gotten really popular, especially since the pandemic. So I would look for that. If you want to meet a dominant partner, that's probably going to be a really good way to meet people if that's in your area. And any sort of like dating or like tasting event or like matchmaking event in a local community, that's a good way to meet people. And you can go on dating apps. If you're going to do that, I'd recommend either OkCupid or Field, because you can be very open on those ones about what you're looking for. But just be careful, because again, people on dating apps are not always as involved in the community as we might be, and they might have different expectations about things. If it's, munches are on FetLife. If it's not, I don't know what to tell you if they're not on FetLife. I find that, I know of in my area, in my greater area, there's 30 different munches that happen in a month. I'm not kidding you. There's so many. My inclination is probably that you're not looking in the right place. Just search for your nearest big city. I will literally go right now as a treat for you all. I will show you verbally as I am walking through the process of finding a munch, and I will demonstrate how to do this. Okay, Okay, I've logged into FetLife. All right, I'm going to events. I now am in the event section. I'm now going to put in, where's a random, I talked about New Brunswick. We're going to do New Brunswick. I'm going to New Brunswick, Canada. All right. I searched New Brunswick, Canada, radius 50 kilometers. All right. There's a night spa, apparently, in Halifax. There's a swap meet in New Brunswick this weekend. There's a swingers party. There's a burlesque and comedy show. There's a picnic. Looks like there's a drinking munch. There is a munch on Monday. There's a different munch on Tuesday. There's another munch on Friday. There's a second other munch on a Friday. And some of these are in Halifax, and some of them there's different. I'm not gonna name all the little cities. There are munches in driving distance. There looks like there is, at least in a single week, there is at least 5. So that's what I mean. Give me another random place to look at, and I will prove that there is a munch in driving distance, at least one, most of the time. If you're in America or Canada, at least. If you're somewhere else in the world, if you're in Brazil, I don't know what to tell you. That's going to be a different scenario. But if you're in North America, even if you're in Europe, there's probably going to be a munch near you. I don't know. Let's look at, what do they got in I don't know. What do they got in North Dakota? What's happening in North Dakota? Let's look. Oh, there's an orgy. There's an orgy happening. There's a kinky photo op. They like gangbangs in North Dakota. That's what I'm discovering. There's a game night. There's a game night. There's a different game night. There's a kinky karaoke. There's a rope lab. There's a different munch. There's a different munch that's got a dart thing going on. There's a play party. There's a rope munch. There's a different game night. Okay, so you can be in literally fucking North Dakota, okay? You can be in North Dakota and there are still kink events happening. Find a munch in the DC area. That's not even a challenge. Give me something hard. All right, I'll do it just to prove it. All right, District of Columbia. Let's fucking go, baby. Private event. Different private events. Oh, different gangbang. Birthday party, gangbang. People like gangbang, so that's not surprising to me at all, actually. This is all just like literally what's happening tonight. Apparently everyone's having a gangbang on Friday, August 9th. Oh, there's a play party. Different play party. I'm not gonna tell, I'm just giving you an overview of like what I'm seeing. I'm not telling you any specifics of anything. God, everyone loves gangbangs. everyone's, there's literally like, I'm not kidding you, there's 10 gangbangs happening just on Friday today. The greater DC metro area. What is happening? Oh no, there's a gaming munch happening this weekend. There's a play party. There's an emergency training thing. There's a littles munch. There is a rope class that's happening. There's a submissives and slaves munch. There's a different munch that's happening. I'm not going to repeat what that event is. More gangbangs, more gangbangs. There is a Transit Allies play party. There's a different play party, different play party, different play party, different play party. This is literally just all on Saturday. This is kind of getting excessive. There's way too many parties. So it looks like over a weekend, there's probably at least like 3 or 4 different munches in DC. And there's a lot of gangbangs. So if you like that, there's options aplenty. Utah? I know that there's a kink scene in Salt Lake City. It's a messy one, but there is a scene there. I'm just gonna pick something that's not even Salt Lake. Let's do Utah County. Yep, no, there's a rope salon. There's a munch. There's a game night. There's another munch. There's another munch. There's another munch. There's a crafting munch. There are also like 7 munches happening. Listen, munches are everywhere. Don't even use any search terms. Just literally look for like your city and then look for munches. I think I have definitively proved that there are probably munches near you. Anyways. Just gotta look. Just have an open mind. Search with a broad brush. You'll probably find it. In any case, that's all for tonight. Bandita! Oh, you went over by the... Come over here. Hi. Hi, baby. Wanna come over here? Hi. Come here. Yeah, hi. Oh, I know what you want. I know what you want. Come here. Come here. More than one. We gotta say goodbye to people, honey. Boop, boop. Ooh! Oh! Yeah, hi, baby. Boop. There we are. Hi! Oh, I know. Hi, baby. It's okay. There we go. We're a little grumpy about being picked up. So we're not gonna do that. Okay. I know. Hi. Anyways, that's going to be that on that. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me on this Friday night. I really appreciate you all being here and for your thoughtful questions. I will be back on Monday with a gaming stream over on Twitch at 5 o'clock. And that's all you need to know for now. Again, thank you all so much for being here.